I am honored to present to you pro-life Governor Rick Perry.
Carol, thank you. It is indeed my great privilege to be here. It is an honor to be here. It's a long journey. It's a long journey from Paint Creek, Texas. Now, some of you, I shared with some people earlier that Paint Creek, Texas is about 200 miles west of Dallas-Fort Worth. If you go down the eastern side of the panhandle of Texas, hit the Red River, and then go 4 counties down, you're in the right county. And it wasn't on the road map at all. There's a little Farm to Market Road. It's about 16 miles from the closest place that has a post office. And that little place is called Haskell. So one of the first things I did as the governor, and I had appointed the commissioners of the Department of Transportation, I took a map over there. And I showed them, I said, right here, where my finger is Paint Creek. And I would appreciate it if you just put a little black dot there and put Paint Creek. So I can now say that I literally put Paint Creek on the map. My dad used to tell people that from Paint Creek, if you head one direction, kind of south, for an hour, you come to Abilene, Texas. And if you head north for about an hour, you start getting close to the end of the earth. My dad called it the Big Empty, where we grew up. And it was a fascinating place to grow up. We lived in a house that where my mom bathed us on the front porch in a number 2 wash tub. I mean, we weren't poor. I tell people, I said, don't get us confused with being poor. We were really rich in spirit, in family, in community. That little school at Paint Creek was out on that Farm to Market Road. And Father, right across the Farm to Market Road, there was a Methodist church, and down on this end was a Baptist church. Your choice. But it was a fabulous place to grow up, because I knew that the spirit that emanated from that little school, from those churches, was the real foundation of life. And faith was a real fabric in our family. Still is. We saw it exhibited when families had challenges, whether there was losses in a family, either economically or in their families' lives, and they would all come together to take care of each other. That great concept of when families face those hardships. I learned from those around me. My Boy Scout, the Scoutmaster, was also the president of the school board and the Sunday school superintendent. My high school football coach was also my basketball coach. My track coach was the civics teacher, was the principal, and drove the bus. So it gives you a little bit of sense of, I'm a long way from Paint Creek, Texas, to have been on this extraordinary journey to be a pilot in the United States Air Force, when I went off to when I went off to college, I actually went off to college to be a veterinarian. I knew I wanted to fly, but my primary way to make a living was going to be a veterinarian. And that's all I ever wanted to do my entire life. I used to drive into town to go to the vet school or to the veterinary clinic and to build that foundation to be ready when I went off to Texas A&M University, and I did, and it was a pre-veterinary medicine major, and organic chemistry gave me a new direction in life. 16 hours of organic chemistry gave me a new direction in life. And you know, God's just got such an extraordinary sense of humor. He will clear hurdles. He will put them in front of you. I always told my mother, I said, Mom, God really didn't want me to be a veterinarian. He had another path. He did. An extraordinary path. One of which I could never have dreamed that I would have the opportunity to affect as many lives. And you know, this great and extraordinary country that we live in, I kind of took it for granted, if you want to know the truth of the matter. I'd never been outside of the state of Texas, maybe a handful of times as a young boy, as a Boy Scout to Valley Forge, and then went to Washington, D.C., and to Philadelphia, and to the World's Fair in New York City in 1964. And I was stunned at this world that was outside of Texas in the mid-1960s. And then as I grew and as I was given more responsibility in life, as I took the task on in the role of being a pilot in the United States Air Force, and I lived literally all around the world in South America. I flew out of the United Kingdom and all through the European theater, down into Saudi Arabia, Africa. And that's when I really started this maturation process, if you will, understanding what a great and extraordinary country we live in. And that the privileges that we have, the freedoms that we have, are so special. Our rights. And our founding fathers who understood this so well, who understood that those rights that we have come from God, not from government. And the most basic right that we have emanates from our Creator, and it is that unalienable right to life. And Karen, we stand firmly on that principle. We stand firmly on that principle that from conception until the last breath is drawn, human life is sacred and it must be protected. As governor, I've had the opportunity to meet amazing and extraordinary people. One of them that just preceded me on the stage is my friend Rick Santorum. I love competition. I tell people, I said, I grew up on competition. I understand it. It's in my soul. It's in my DNA. And for about the last 5 years, I would get up, and while I was a governor, and one of the first things I would do, I would look east. because I knew Bobby Jindal was over here. I did. Every day. I know Bobby was over here and he was thinking about how to make Louisiana more competitive tax-wise, regulatory-wise, legal system, public education-wise. And I know he was also looking over to the West, how he might get a business to come to this great state of Louisiana. You know, and truly that concept of our founding fathers who understood that at our core, the way that we're better is that we compete against each other. That's the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and it says that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited by the same are reserved for the states or the individuals. I mean, it just simply says that the federal government's supposed to do a few things, do those few things well. Things like standing a strong military, things like securing our border. Wouldn't it be awesome if our federal government just got some of the things that they actually are constitutionally required to do right, and then said, okay, you states, work everything else out. You'll figure this out. I believe that with all my heart. I think that's an important concept for us to have this conversation with in this country, and where people really understand that. And Louis Brandeis was an old Supreme Court justice, and he was a very liberal Supreme Court justice, but he respected the Constitution. And he said that the states were the laboratories of democracy, that states were supposed to experiment. They were supposed to come up with different novel ideas about how to deliver health care, or he didn't say health care, but deliver, I said that, how to deliver different programs and policies to the people out there. He said from time to time a state will make a mistake. But he said at least it has not destroyed the republic. And I think about that when I think about what's going on with this Affordable Care Act and the potential damage that it can do to our republic because of the, well, remember, it was going to, if you liked your doctor, you keep your doctor. We're going to have more access to health care, and it's going to drive down the cost of health care. Wrong. So, but my point is, I believe with all my heart that Bobby Jindal, Rick Scott, Nikki Haley, governors all across this country will come up with better ways working with their legislature and their healthcare providers and their citizens in those states to be able to deliver health care across this country in ways that are substantially more efficient, effective, and affordable. I know we can, because I saw it happen in my home state. I'm really proud of what we did in the state of Texas. Over the last 14 years, it has been an incredible privilege to be the chief executive officer of the 12th largest economy in the world, to be able to work with the people of that state, our elected officials, to put tax policy and regulatory policies, legal policies. You realize in 2003, we passed the most sweeping tort reform in the nation. And basically what we were doing, we were protecting healthcare providers from frivolous lawsuits. I mean, that was the real focus on it. It had broader impact than that. But let me tell you what the results of that is. In 2013, there were 35,000 more doctors licensed to practice medicine in that state. What that did is that made this explosion of healthcare across the state of Texas. Access to health care is the real issue. I don't think it's right for us. I don't think it's the appropriate thing for us to judge success by how many people can we force to buy insurance. I think it's important how many people have access to really good quality health care. That's where we ought to be working on, Father, when it comes to making sure that the least of us are taken care of. If you were a pregnant female from El Paso to Brownsville, in 2001, you had to leave that county to get prenatal care because the physicians had been sued so often that they had either quit practicing or stepped away from those subspecialists. Not today. Today, you can get that type of health care in the state of Texas. Christus Spohn, one of the great charity hospitals, a great Catholic charity hospital in Corpus Christi, Texas. Today, they save $100 million a year in defense cost. You know what that means? That means that's $100 million that can go back into making sure that people get the type of prenatal care that they need, the type of health care that they need. They build new facilities and have new technology. That's what we ought to be looking at in this country, about how you make America a better place to live, to take care of our citizens. I'm proud of what we did in the state of Texas. I'm really proud of what we did to protect life. There are going to be a lot of candidates for president that stand up and say the right things about protecting life. But there is nobody that will walk on the stage. Nobody. And I respect them all with an extraordinary amount of respect and love. But no candidate has done more to protect life for the unborn than I have. That's a fact. We passed a parental notification law. I signed a parental consent law. I signed a sonogram law so mothers facing that agonizing choice can actually see. And I know it works. On my iPad, there's that 20-week picture of my first grandbaby. And her mother understands now the most preciousness of life. That's not just a mass. That's not just something that can be discarded. You see right there, those beautiful little toes, and that little nose, that little mouth. I'm not sure there's been a more powerful tool in the great repertoire of technology that we've been given in this country than that sonogram to protect the life of the innocent in America. Because that was one of the tools that we used in protecting women's health, of being able to say that this is a very important date, if you will, that 20-week period where we outlawed abortions in the state of Texas. And the effects of our efforts, I tell people, I said, you want to know whether you're being successful or not? Take a look at what your opposition's doing. Obviously, we were very, very successful in Texas. Time after time, the opposition has gone to the courthouse to reverse what we did at the State House. Even today, the advocates of late-term abortion are using the courts, or attempting to use the court. They're fighting to stop Texas and stop that law that I signed in 2013. They got a last-minute stay at the United States Supreme Court. And I think that underscores the most important thing I'm going to leave you with today, and the reason we need to make sure that we come together, that we pick a candidate to be our nominee that not only will win, but that understands how to pick credentialed conservatives for the United States Supreme Court. Because we're probably going to put 3 on there. There is a real chance that the next president of the United States can put 3 members of the United States Supreme Court. I want you to think about that. Our record's not pure on picking credentialed conservatives to go on the United States Supreme Court. As the governor of Texas, over that 14-year period of time, I appointed 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices on the Texas Supreme Court. They are credentialed conservatives as someone who knows that court and looked at it, he said, Perry doesn't do squishy on judges. And that's my promise to you. If I'm the President of the United States and I have the opportunity to put individuals on the United States Supreme Court, they will not be squishy. They will be individuals who understand what the Constitution says. They will be individuals that understand what the 10th Amendment says. I'm incredibly sensitive to this economic argument that individuals make about families and children. You know, Rick was talking about Bella. Ella's my granddaughter. Bella's his granddaughter. And we pray for each other's granddaughters often. And these families with special needs. And economic factors are one of the main drivers behind abortion in America. And especially for women who learn that the child in their womb has some type of disability, a Down syndrome baby. The emotional heartache, the economic hardship can leave women with a really difficult choice. We want pregnant women to know that their unborn child has health coverage, that they're going to be able to afford. It's one of the reasons as we have this conversation in this country today about the Affordable Care Act. And listen, I want to repeal it and replace it. I want to allow the states to come up with the ideas of how to best be able to deliver health care in this country. But as we make that transition from that to a more affordable, more accessible, a more thoughtful way to deliver health care, we need to make sure that the people of this country know today that there will be coverage for them, that they're going to be taken care of. No mother should feel the cost of caring for a child with special needs is a barrier to bringing that child into the world. Those of us who stand for life must also send a message to women who have had an abortion that there's real love, that there is healing and acceptance without judgment for those that live with those scars of abortion. For 6.5 years, we have had a president who has used divisiveness as a tool for his political advantage. He's advertised in the battleground states that Republicans were a threat to women's health. It's time we had a president that transcends petty politics, who heals this nation, who brings us together, who can change truly this culture that we see in America today, and do it through love, do it through tolerance, do it through healing, because this is the most important truth here and now. As long as Roe versus Wade is the law of the land, the only way to stop abortion is one pregnancy at a time, one woman at a time, one heart at a time. And I want to challenge you to be a part of that. As we leave here as an army, working together, of love and compassion, of tolerance, of healing. I'm mindful that every candidate that's going to walk across this stage is going to be a champion for the values of life. That's good. But after 6.5 years of a president whose rhetoric never exceeded his record, it's time that we elect a president whose record speaks louder than his words. This is going to be a show me, don't tell me election. And on the issue of life, no one has shown more unwavering conviction concerning that issue to protect the unborn than I have. Not every child is born into ideal circumstances. I get that. But every child is special in the eyes of God. There is no such thing as an unwanted child in God's eyes. So let's always stand up for life. Let's always be in the pursuit of happiness. Let us and everyone that we come in touch with know that we can build a future of this country that is substantially better than the greatest days of our past. God bless you, and thank you all for letting me come and be a part of this with you today. Thank you.